In 1947, a coal miner in West Virginia hadn't seen a doctor in 22 years. Not because he couldn't afford one, because he didn't need one. His name was Earl Combs, 61 years old, 6 days a week underground, blood pressure of a 30-year-old. His doctor was so baffled he wrote about it in the West Virginia Medical Journal. Earl didn't take supplements, didn't count calories, didn't go to a gym. He used the healing methods his mother taught him, methods that were quietly removed from American medical textbooks between 1950 and 1965. Not because they stopped working, because they stopped being profitable. Number 14 on this list, 3 pharmaceutical companies lobbied Congress to bury it. Their own internal research confirmed it worked. Number 7 was in every American hospital until 1953. Then it was gone. No announcement, no explanation. Number 3 was published in The Lancet with a 93% success rate. No drug in history has matched that number. It was shelved and never mentioned again. These 20 methods built the healthiest generation America ever produced. The generation that survived the Depression without antidepressants, 2 world wars without anxiety medications, and buried their own parents in their 90s. Hit subscribe, because what your doctor doesn't say in that 12-minute appointment may be the most important thing you never heard. Let us count them down. Number 20. Castor oil packs. If you grew up before 1960, there was a tin of castor oil in that kitchen. Not on the medicine shelf. In the kitchen. Because your grandmother didn't think of it as medicine. She thought of it as common sense. Warm castor oil, a piece of flannel, laid over the abdomen overnight. Physicians used it for inflammation, joint pain, liver congestion, and digestive disorders. Cost, 15 cents a bottle in 1940. Dr. William McGarry spent 40 years documenting it. His finding, castor oil packs measurably increased lymphocyte production, your own immune cells. Published, peer-reviewed, completely ignored, because castor oil had no patent, no manufacturer, no profit margin. When petroleum-based creams were marketed in the 1950s as the modern solution, castor oil disappeared from prescriptions. Not from pharmacies. It is still there, on the bottom shelf. Your grandmother didn't know the mechanism. She just knew it worked. For 3 generations, that was enough. Number 19. Activated charcoal. In 1934, a toxicologist named Dr. Thury stood before the French Academy of Medicine and drank 10 times the lethal dose of strychnine, mixed with activated charcoal. He walked out fine. American hospitals adopted it immediately. By 1940, it was standard treatment in every emergency room in this country. Poisoning, drug overdose, food poisoning, 0 cost, 0 side effects. The mechanism is simple. 1 teaspoon of activated charcoal has the surface area of a football field at the molecular level. It binds toxins and carries them out before your body absorbs them. Then Ipecac syrup arrived, marketed as the modern replacement. More active, more medical feeling. Studies showed charcoal worked better, but Ipecac had a manufacturer. Charcoal came from a kiln. The World Health Organization still lists activated charcoal as an essential medicine today. Your pharmacy still sells it. Bottom shelf. Nobody walks down that aisle anymore. Your grandmother would have known exactly where to find it. Number 18. Colloidal silver. Before penicillin, silver was the antibiotic. Not metaphorically, literally. Every American hospital before 1940 used silver solutions on infected wounds, silver nitrate for newborn eye infections, silver sutures for surgical incisions. A 1938 study documented silver's effectiveness against 650 different pathogens. The best broad-spectrum antibiotic today covers perhaps 15. Then pharmaceutical antibiotics entered the market, and in 1938, that same year, the FDA reclassified colloidal silver as requiring special approval, not because it was dangerous, Because it competed with everything the pharmaceutical industry was about to sell. By 1999, the FDA declared it not recognized as safe or effective. That same year, pharmaceutical antibiotics were generating $25 billion annually. Here's the part nobody mentions in a doctor's office. Every hospital today still uses silver, silver-coated catheters, silver wound dressings, silver surgical equipment. They just charge $400 for the application and never tell you what the active ingredient is. Number 17. Fasting. In 1915, Dr. Francis Benedict of the Carnegie Institution published the most comprehensive study of human fasting ever conducted. His conclusion: short-term fasting healed the body in ways no pharmaceutical compound had replicated. By 1932, 40 peer-reviewed studies confirmed it. Fasting reversed early-stage diabetes, reduced inflammation, cleared skin conditions that topical treatments never touched. Dr. Herbert Shelton supervised 40,000 medically supervised fasts between 1928 and 1970, documented outcomes in arthritis, hypertension, and digestive disease. Extraordinary results. Then commercial insulin arrived. A diabetic patient who fasted and got better was worth nothing to the pharmaceutical economy. A diabetic patient on insulin was worth $300 a month. Every month, for life. Fasting disappeared from clinical guidelines, not disproven, defunded. In 2016, Yoshinori Ohsumi won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for confirming that fasting triggers cellular self-repair. The process is called autophagy. He confirmed with Nobel-level science what Dr. Benedict had observed in 1915. Your grandmother called it a fast day. She did it every week. She didn't know the word autophagy. She just knew she felt better afterward. Number 16. Sunlight. In 1903, a Danish physician named Niels Finsen won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Not for a drug, not for a procedure, for using concentrated sunlight to cure tuberculosis of the skin. Within 20 years, heliotherapy clinics operated in every major American city. Physicians wrote sunlight prescriptions, specific durations, specific times of day, on a prescription pad. Between 1920 and 1950, the New England Journal of Medicine published 37 studies on controlled sun exposure. Vitamin D deficiency was virtually unknown. Today, it affects over 40% of American adults. The sunscreen industry happened. Through the 1970s and 1980s, manufacturers reframed sunlight as dangerous. A Nobel Prize-winning treatment became a risk factor. Vitamin D supplement sales now exceed $1 billion annually. We pay for the pill that replaces what the sun gives for free. Harvard Medical School confirmed in 2019, 20 minutes of daily midday sun reduces all-cause mortality by 29%. No drug on the American market achieves that outcome. Your grandfather sat on the porch every morning after breakfast. His doctor told him to. We took the porch away. Then we sold him supplements to treat the deficiency we created. Number 15. Bone broth. Walk into any American hospital before 1955. In the recovery ward, you would not find a pill or an IV drip. You would find a bowl of broth, made from bones, long-simmered, prescribed by physicians to post-surgical patients, pneumonia survivors, anyone whose body needed to rebuild. A 1934 study in the Archives of Pediatrics documented children recovering from dysentery. Those given bone broth recovered dramatically faster than those given standard saline. The mechanism was the gelatin, collagen broken down by long simmering. It lines and repairs the intestinal wall. The minerals absorb directly into the bloodstream. Then hospital food was industrialized. Campbell's canned broth was cheaper. The budget looked better. The nutrition was gone. By 1965, scratch-made bone broth had disappeared from every hospital kitchen in America. 50 years later, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride built the GAPS protocol almost entirely around bone broth. Gastroenterologists dismissed it. Then patients started recovering from conditions pharmaceuticals had failed for years. The mechanism was identified in 1934. Your grandmother made it every Sunday. The whole house smelled of it. She wasn't being old-fashioned. She was running a protocol. Number 14. This is the one. 3 pharmaceutical companies lobbied Congress to suppress it. It disappeared from the U.S. Pharmacopoeia not because it was disproven, but because it cost cents. Pure gum spirits of turpentine, not the industrial solvent at the hardware store. Pure gum spirits distilled from living pine trees. Listed as an approved medicine in the United States dispensatory from the 1800s through 1955. 150 years of federal medical approval. Physicians prescribed small doses internally for intestinal parasites, bladder infections, fungal overgrowth, and rheumatism. The 1943 U.S. dispensatory, an official government medical reference, lists it specifically for those conditions. Dr. Jennifer Daniels spent years researching 200 years of documented medical use and published her findings in 2010. She lost her medical license. Not for patient harm, not for malpractice, for discussing historical medical literature. The pharmaceutical anti-parasitic market generates over $2 billion annually today. A teaspoon of pine-distilled turpentine costs cents. The FDA reclassified it as toxic for internal use in 1960. The same year, anti-parasitic pharmaceuticals entered commercial production. The historical record exists. The timing speaks for itself. Your great-grandmother knew about this. She wasn't taking chances with parasites. Number 13. Cold water hydrotherapy. By 1900, over 200 dedicated hydrotherapy hospitals operated in the United States. Not spas. Hospitals, with licensed physicians prescribing cold water protocols. The Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan treated 300 patients daily. Its director, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, published 1,400 pages of documented patient outcomes in 1902. Cold packs for fever, cold baths for inflammation, wet sheet wraps for insomnia. Worked within 20 minutes. Then pharmaceutical sedatives arrived. Aspirin replaced cold packs. Barbiturates replaced wet sheets. Each required a prescription. Each generated revenue. Water generated nothing. By 1960, hydrotherapy was reclassified from medicine to spa treatment. The hospitals became resorts. In 2019, Dr. Rhonda Patrick confirmed that cold water exposure increases norepinephrine by 300% and measurably reduces inflammatory markers. Identical to what Kellogg documented in 1902. A billion-dollar cold plunge industry now sells what American physicians used to prescribe for free. Your grandmother filled a tub with cold water when you had a fever. Every doctor told her to stop. The doctors were wrong. Before we continue, a moment. If you are watching this video, you've probably already suspected some of this. You have sat in a waiting room for 45 minutes, been seen for 9, handed a prescription you did not fully understand, and walked out wondering if something was being left unsaid. There was. Everything from this point forward was not just forgotten. It was replaced, deliberately, with something that cost more, worked less, and required you to come back next month. Let us continue. Number 12. Herbal poultices. During the Civil War, Confederate field surgeons ran out of medical supplies in the first year. They used what local families had used for generations: raw plantain pressed into wounds, slippery elm paste for burns, comfrey root for deep lacerations. Infection rates matched Union hospitals that had antiseptic supplies. Union physicians documented this. Some adopted the same methods. The United States Pharmacopoeia listed comfrey as an approved wound treatment from 1820 to 1936, wasing 16 years of federal approval. Its active compound, allantoin, accelerates cell regeneration. Today, pharmaceutical companies extract allantoin from comfrey, synthesize it in a laboratory, and sell it in wound cream at $18 or a tube. The tube does not mention comfrey. A 2015 study in the Journal of Wound Care confirmed comfrey extract healed abrasions 2.5 times faster than standard petroleum ointments. Your grandmother kept a comfrey plant in the backyard. You thought it was decorative. Number 11. Castor oil for the eyes. American ophthalmologists used cold-pressed castor oil for dry eyes, irritation, and early cataracts from 1890 through 1945. Standard practice. Castor oil contains ricinoleic acid, an omega-9 fatty acid that closely mimics the lipid layer of natural human tears. The eye recognizes it, integrates it. A 2010 double-blind trial published in the journal Cornea compared castor oil directly against synthetic lubricant eye drops. Castor oil won. Measurably. The study is in the medical database today. Every ophthalmologist in this country has access to it. Refresh. Cystane. Vicine. $3 billion a year. A bottle of pure castor oil costs $6 and lasts 12 months. Nobody is running commercials about that. Number 10. Earthing. Before rubber-soled shoes became standard in the 1950s, Americans spent significant time in direct contact with the earth. Farmers barefoot in morning soil, children on grass all afternoon, hands in the garden. Nobody called it therapy. It was just life. A 2012 peer-reviewed study confirmed that within 30 minutes of direct contact with the earth, cortisol levels drop measurably. Inflammatory markers fall. Blood viscosity normalizes. The mechanism is electrical. The earth carries a negative charge. The inflamed human body carries a positive one. Direct contact allows electron transfer, grounding the body's electrical system. Nobody can patent the ground, but they can sell anti-inflammatory drugs, sleep medications, and cortisol supplements for a combined market of $400 billion annually. Your grandfather walked barefoot in the garden every morning. He just knew it felt right. He was correct. Number 9. Oil pulling. 1 tablespoon of sesame or coconut oil, swished in the mouth for 15 to 20 minutes. First thing, in the morning, the oil binds to the lipid membranes of oral bacteria. When you spit it out, the bacteria go with it. By morning, your oral bacterial load is at its daily peak. Oil pulling disrupts that cycle before bacteria enter your bloodstream. They do enter your bloodstream. Oral bacteria are now directly linked to cardiovascular disease, dementia, and diabetes. A 2009 study in the Indian Journal of Dental Research found oil pulling as effective as chlorhexidine, the pharmaceutical mouthwash gold standard, for reducing decay-causing bacteria. Listerine generates $1.5 billion annually. A jar of coconut oil costs $8 and lasts 3 months. Your great-grandmother called it a morning rinse, said it kept her teeth until she was 89. She was not wrong. Number 8. Magnesium. From 1880 to 1960. Epsom salt baths were not a luxury. They were a prescription, written on a prescription pad, for anxiety, insomnia, muscle cramps, hypertension, and recovery from illness. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, absorbed through the skin during a warm bath. A 2004 study confirmed it measurably raises plasma magnesium levels. Magnesium controls over 300 biochemical reactions: blood pressure, blood sugar, heart rhythm, sleep, the nervous system. In 1950, magnesium deficiency was rare. Today, it affects 75% of American adults. The symptoms, insomnia, anxiety, muscle cramps, irregular heartbeat, are now treated with Ambien, Xanax, beta blockers, and statins. Ambien alone generates $2.8 billion annually. An Epsom salt bath costs 50 cents. Your grandmother's doctor told her to take one when she couldn't sleep. That doctor is gone. So is the prescription. The deficiency remains. Everything on this list so far was approved, documented, prescribed, taught in American medical schools. None of it was disproven. It was defunded. There is a difference between a method being disproven and a method being unprofitable. American medicine spent 70 years pretending those two things are the same. They are not. Number 7. Letting a fever work. A fever is not a disease. A fever is a defense. When your immune system detects an invader, it raises your body temperature deliberately, because most pathogens cannot survive above 101 degrees, because fever accelerates white blood cell production, because heat activates proteins that protect your cells while destroying infected ones. Your body has run this program for 300,000 years. It is very good at it. Every American physician from 1900 to 1950 was trained on this. Moderate fever, under 103 degrees, was monitored, not medicated. A 1987 study in The Lancet showed children who suppressed fever during influenza recovered 3.5 days slower than children who did not. Why did the practice change? Bayer spent 50 years and enormous resources teaching the American public that fever was dangerous and aspirin was the answer. Acetaminophen followed in 1955, ibuprofen in 1969. The fever-suppressing market now generates $4 billion annually. The WHO's own guidelines state that fever below 104 degrees does not require medication in healthy individuals. Most American parents have never seen that sentence. Your grandmother gave you lukewarm broth and let your body fight. She was doing exactly what the evidence supported. Number 6. Garlic. During World War I, the British government purchased enormous quantities of garlic for infected battlefield wounds. Not folk medicine. They had run out of antiseptic supplies and field surgeons had confirmed it worked. The active compound is allicin, released when garlic is crushed or chopped. It attacks bacterial cell walls similarly to pharmaceutical antibiotics, with one critical difference. Bacteria develop resistance to pharmaceutical antibiotics. It is a growing global crisis. Bacteria do not develop resistance to allicin. The mechanism is too complex. They cannot mutate fast enough. A 2011 study in the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy confirmed allicin effective against MRSA, the superbug killing 19,000 Americans every year that most antibiotics cannot touch. No pharmaceutical company can patent garlic. The FDA cannot regulate a vegetable, so it simply stopped acknowledging one. Your grandmother put raw garlic in everything when anyone was sick. She was not cooking, she was medicating. Number 5. The elimination diet. In 1926, Dr. Albert Rowe published a book called Food Allergy. His finding, removing specific foods from the diet resolved chronic conditions that drugs had failed to treat for years. Migraines, asthma, eczema, arthritis, depression. In 1992, The Lancet published a study using his protocol on childhood migraines. 93% of children became completely symptom-free. The best pharmaceutical treatments achieve 50 to 60% partial relief. That study was published, noted, and never incorporated into standard clinical protocol. Because you cannot patent a diet. You cannot charge a monthly refill for removing wheat and dairy. That same protocol Dr. Rowe developed in 1926 is now sold as the Whole 30 program. Over $100 million in revenue. Nobody mentions Dr. Rowe. Nobody mentions it was medicine before it became a brand. Your grandmother called it cutting out rich food when you were unwell. She had been doing it for decades before anyone gave it a name. Number 4. Sleep. Before the electric light made nights optional, the average American slept 9.5 hours. This was not laziness, it was medicine. American physicians prescribed sleep, specific hours, specific darkness requirements, rest periods written on prescription pads. During deep sleep, the brain's glymphatic system flushes toxic proteins from brain tissue, including amyloid beta, the protein directly linked to Alzheimer's disease. A 2019 study in Nature confirmed one night of poor sleep increases amyloid beta accumulation by 5%. One night. A 2023 study in JAMA found consistent, adequate sleep reduced cardiovascular mortality by 34%. No drug on the American market achieves that outcome. The sleeping pill industry generates $80 billion annually treating a problem created by convincing 3 generations that 9 hours of sleep was self-indulgent. Your parents went to bed when it got dark. Their doctors told them to. Then the industrial economy needed longer shifts. Then television. Then smartphones. And now we sell $80 billion in pills to simulate what darkness used to provide for free. Number 3. Community as medicine. This one is not what you expected. In the 1950s, American physicians included social prescriptions in patient care, written on a prescription pad. Attend your church, have dinner with your family, join your community garden, because physicians observed that isolated patients healed slower, stayed sick longer, died younger. Dr. Julianne Holt Lundstad analyzed 148 studies covering 300,000 participants. Her finding, social isolation increases mortality risk by 29%, equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In 2023, the United States Surgeon General declared loneliness a national health epidemic, 70 years after medicine abandoned the prescription that would have prevented it. You cannot bill insurance for a Sunday dinner. You cannot charge a copay for sitting on the porch with your neighbor. But you can bill $250 for an antidepressant consultation every month for years. The most socially connected generation in American history had the lowest rates of depression, cardiovascular disease, and cognitive decline ever recorded. They were not taking antidepressants. They were taking Sunday dinner seriously. Number 2. Managing illness at home. Before the pharmaceutical industry created a product for every symptom, American families managed colds, flu, chest infections, and digestive illness with what every mother knew: rest, warmth, steam, broth, honey, garlic, ginger. These were not folk remedies. They were evidence-based practices taught by physicians and refined across generations. Honey was in the U.S. Pharmacopoeia as a cough suppressant from 1820 to 1940. A 2012 study in pediatrics found it more effective than dextromethorphan, the active ingredient in most commercial cough syrups. Steam inhalation was standard physician protocol through the 1950s. A 2017 systematic review confirmed its effectiveness for nasal congestion without a single side effect. The combined U.S. market for cold and flu pharmaceuticals exceeds $8 billion annually. For conditions that honey, steam, and rest managed effectively for 100 years before any of those products existed. Your grandmother had a protocol. It was not complicated. It was not expensive. The generation she raised on it lived on average to their mid-80s, on real food, real rest. No prescriptions. Number 1. The most powerful healing tool in pre-pharmaceutical America was not a remedy, not a herb, not a mineral, not a technique. It was a conversation, across a kitchen table, between a grandmother who had watched her own mother heal people with what the earth provided, and a daughter learning to do the same. That chain, unwritten, unbroken, carried more practical clinical knowledge than most medical schools teach today. Your grandmother knew which tea reduced a fever and which one broke one. She knew the difference between a cough that needed steam and one that needed rest. She knew how to look at a sick child and know whether it was serious. She had seen enough illness to recognize its patterns. She had enough trust in the body's resilience to give it room to work. That knowledge was not magic. It was observation, accumulated across generations, tested in the real conditions of real life, passed from woman to woman in the most informal medical school that ever existed. Researcher Dan Buettner spent years studying the blue zones, the 5 regions of the world where people consistently live past 100 in good health. He looked for the common factor. It was not a supplement, not a protocol, not a specific food. It was intergenerational connection, grandparents near their families, knowledge moving downward, children watching their elders move and eat and rest and heal. Those communities had 20 to 30% lower rates of chronic disease, 10 or more years of additional healthy life, dramatically lower pharmaceutical use. That chain broke in America in the 1960s, when the nursing home replaced the grandmother's bedroom, when the physician replaced the family elder as the only authority on health. Your grandmother stopped offering advice because she was told she was not qualified. Her silence, multiplied across millions of families across 60 years, cost more to public health than any single disease in this country's history. The methods on this list were not lost. They were taken from you by a system that needed you not to have them. Every one of them is still available, still documented, still working. The only thing required to reclaim them is the same thing that passed them down in the first place: someone willing to sit at the table and share what they know. Every method on this list was free or nearly free. Everyone was documented, everyone worked, and everyone was sidelined. Not by better science, by better business. Try one tonight, just one. A castor oil pack, an Epsom salt bath, a bowl of broth made from scratch. Then come back and tell me what your grandmother used to do that you thought was old-fashioned. Because it was exactly right. Drop it in the comments, share this with someone who needs to hear it. If you made it this far, you already know more about your own health than most people learn in a lifetime. Subscribe. Because what is coming next in this series may be even more important than what you just watched.